So there's been a lot of excitement and a lot of press and a lot of reviews from a lot of my friends, Elvin, Matt McKinney, about a little movie called Joker that came out yesterday. Now, of course, there have been a lot of tellings of the movie called Joker, but one thing to keep in mind is at the end of the day, Joker is a nerd movie. And so this will be the Nerd World Order spoiler-free review of a little movie that we call Joker. Hey, what's up, Lance? Great to see you, bro. Now, as a nerd, there are 4 things that we look for in order to determine if a movie is good or not. We look for action, we look for acting, we look for special effects, and we look for story. Put them all together, and you can get 1 nerd flag for each one, equaling a total of 4 nerd flags. So this is the Nerd World Order spoiler-free review of a little movie called Joker. Now, I know I mentioned action first, but of course, we have to start with the acting in this movie, because there's no surprise, there's no way that I'm not going to give 1 very strong, enthusiastic nerd flag for a little movie called Joker. Now, Joaquin Phoenix brought it in this movie. However, just saying that he was a great actor, we also have to look at his supporting cast. I think every supporting character, every supporting actor and actress in this movie did a great job of building on the foundation, because the foundation of this movie, the overall atmosphere. In fact, I'm willing to say that one thing that's going to be overlooked is the atmosphere of Gotham City, the atmosphere of the people around Joaquin Phoenix, or Arthur Fleck, or the Joker, whatever you want to call him. The atmosphere around this movie is just as important as the acting, because that atmosphere lends its way to the overall progression of the movie. Joaquin Phoenix, 1 very strong, enthusiastic nerd flag for his portrayal as Arthur Fleck. Now, let me say, it's really important to say this. He was Arthur Fleck through about, I'll just throw out a number so I don't give any spoilers. Let's say 70% of the movie, he's Arthur Fleck. But through the entire movie, you know that at some point, he's going to become the Joker. It's that underlying current. It's that bubbling under the surface. It's that him knowing that he's starting to have a new revelation. It's you knowing what he's becoming that really, really drives this movie. It's what's coming. It's the building. You see it step by step. That's why this movie gets, yes, a lot of people have said it. I believe Elvin said it. I believe Matthew said it. I believe Jessica said it. Everyone who's seen this movie said that clearly Joaquin Phoenix deserves an Oscar. And he does. For 1 very strong, enthusiastic nerd flag for Joker. But don't forget the background scenery. Everything else in the movie, in itself, should be 1 very strong, enthusiastic nerd flag. Now let's move on to number 2. Number 2 being the action. Now, I was really on the fence about this one because this isn't an action movie. This is a drama, and there's lots of suspense. But let me tell you something. When the action hits in this movie, it hits hard. And the interesting thing about this is it's very visual, and it's very visceral, and it's very fast. But when it hits you, it's like, whoa. And then you go back to the drama, to the pacing. The action in this movie, which is something I haven't seen in a while, isn't necessarily overwhelming. It's not spectacular, but it's placed so well and done so subtly, yet strongly, which sounds like a contradiction, but when you see the movie, you'll know what I mean. The action really delivers. It's literally just like a smack in the face with a bloody pie, and then they're right back to that drama. So I was on the fence. 1 nerd flag, half a nerd flag, no nerd flags. But the more I thought about it, this movie deserves 1 very strong, enthusiastic nerd flag for the action in Joker. Now, let's move on to the special effects. This movie was not a special effects extravaganza. And I think that one of the things about the movie is because it wasn't solely based on the special effects, or the special effects weren't in your face, it draws you into a sense of reality. And that sense of reality is what really drives this movie. Overdoing it with the special effects would have pulled you away. What's up, X-Man? How you doing, bro? It really pulls you away if there would have been too strong special effects. Now, there were points in the movie where they give you some special effects and they're drawn out. It's extended. When you see those special effects, you almost want to look away at some point because they are so real and they do create such a visceral feeling. It's not something that you want to see, but you keep looking because parts of the special effects feel kind of like a car crash. They're very practical effects. You're looking at it, you know you're not supposed to look at it. You can't believe what you're seeing on the screen. And it's like, man, it just really grabs you. So, special effects. One very strong, enthusiastic nerd flag for the special effects because they were practical effects, they were realistic special effects, and you couldn't take your eyes off them despite the fact you knew you should want to look away. Excellent, one strong nerd flag for the special effects in that movie that we called it Joker. Now, we got one nerd flag left, and as nerds, as I always say, story is the most important thing. The Joker is perhaps the most prolific villain in the comic book industry. Therefore, you have to do it right. And the source material, there's an abundance. But they didn't stick to the source material. And that's what I really liked. There are so many iconic stories that have the Joker as the main character. A Death in the Family, or The Killing Joke. So many. There have been years and years of Joker stories. But they went with a story that took little elements from the comic books, but brought in their own spin on things. They set it in a period of time that really, in my opinion, it could have been set in 2019. But what they did by pulling you into a different time period, they made you feel comfortable enough to really analyze what was going on in the story. The story is definitely a perspective on the human condition, the condition of America, how we treat the mentally ill. And even though anyone or everybody's going to say a bad day can turn anybody into a villain, no. If you got that from this movie, you need to watch it again and you need to really analyze what it is. It's not about that. It's about one man, in my opinion, being put in a position where eventually he breaks. Is everyone capable of that? Breaking? Perhaps, but not in the way that Arthur Fleck did. Arthur Fleck. So, that is obviously one very strong, enthusiastic nerd flag. Now, one great thing about this movie is when I was done, I was talking to my wife, and we had conversations about what about this portion of the story, what about that portion of the story. It's a movie that you can watch more than once, have different conversations, take different things away from it, and honestly, for the first time in a long time, there's a DC movie that you can have perspectives on the human condition, on all sorts of condition. It really makes you think. This movie knocked it out of the park with the story. It couldn't be done without phenomenal acting, without a phenomenal background, but this movie clearly knocked it out of the park. What's up, Kate? What's up, my brother, Brett? So, acting, action, special effects, one very strong, enthusiastic nerd flag. So, this is a movie that you have to see this weekend because this is a phenomenal movie. The Joker delivers 4 very strong, enthusiastic nerd flags. For a DC movie, yes, it happened. A DC movie gets 4 very strong, enthusiastic nerd flags. It's not set in the standard DCEU, the Shazam, Superman, Justice League. It's not set in that universe, but I feel like it is setting up for perhaps being a prequel to another DC universe that can be more dramatic, more intelligent, more intense, and I personally am looking forward to seeing all of these movies. So I know you're wondering, Alan, where'd you get that badass shirt? IamNWO.com. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I am NWO, we are also NWO, and let your nerd flag fly. Boom.
If this had been an actual emergency, the signal you just heard would have been followed by the phrase,